Hi, here's my next live stream on YouTube. In this one, I'm going to be talking about the chalices at chequers and how they relate, or how one of them relates to the recent Saturn Pluto conjunction. There are pictures of this on my website. There is a link in the description below to my website, and you can go, it'll take you to the checkers page, and there's pictures of the chalices there. And at the very bottom of the page, there's a picture of the blue energy chalice and how it relates to the sign of Pluto. And that is what I'm going to be talking about in this webinar, or not this webinar, in this live feed. I love doing these live feeds. It's much better to see that I'm speaking to people than just speaking into a microphone. It adds a new dynamic. The energy comes through and it just feels great. So really pleased YouTube gives me this facility. And this is actually going out to Haley, who's going to be writing an article on this stream, and putting it in the newspaper, and has supported um, my efforts to get access to checkers for doing sacred ceremonies, and also that maybe the public can have access there to the Ridgeway at checkers. So I will carry on. Hello, those two people listening. Really glad for your company. I hope you're having a nice day. And at checkers, as you can see from the pictures, and I'll make a video of this as well, just with the pictures stuck on it, so you'll be able to see it later with the pictures. But hi, Andrea. Hello. Hi. Um, so on the top picture, it shows the Ridgeway, the ancient track that travels across Britain, 6,000-year-old pilgrimage route to Stonehenge and Avesbury and different places. And it makes this perfect chalice shape, and it integrates with all of the ancient tracks around and different ley lines to make this beautiful chalice at checkers. And if you scroll down that page right at the bottom, it shows a picture of another chalice. And this chalice is, I call it the blue energy chalice. And this is because it has the quality of the blue energies that we work with in holographic breathing. And these relate to the kidneys, the adrenals, the bladder, and the penis vagina. It's a very potent healing circuit. And that blue energy chalice. Hi, Jacqueline Zaki. Big love and smile back to you as well. Thank you for coming on my live feed. This is so much fun. And that picture, that blue energy chalice, is of the steep escarpment of checkers, and it is exactly, the background is exactly the same as the one at the top of the page, but I've just put different things, and it shows a different chalice at a different place. Hi, Andrea. Thank you for talking about Pluto. I can't read it all now, but I will read it afterwards. So I got lost a bit talking to people's comments. So this second chalice also reflects as an image of Pluto. So we worked with that in the last webinar. Really, really potent. Most of it came through in the middle of the night before the webinar. So we had a lot of stuff in. We went and visited the center of the Earth, which is plutonium, which relates to Pluto, and the atomic energy, nuclear fission that's going off in the center of the planet that heats the whole planet. We visited that has the energy of Pluto. Um, but also, what I wanted to speak of in this was because Haley was interested in this, was this relationship between this second chalice at checkers and Pluto, and also how that revolved a bit around Brexit, how that played out in Brexit. So for the last 3 years, we've had all of this different factions. Now, I'm not taking any stance in this, but I think most people have to admit in England or the UK and Europe over the last 3 years, everything has been rubbing up against each other. And this is like the build up to the Pluto Saturn conjunction. They're 40 years long, but there's 40 years since the last one. The last, well, almost 40 years. 1981 was the last one. So it's a long cycle, and they're thought of as the end of an era and the start of a new era. And so for the last 3 years, we've been building up to the end of an era and then moving into a new era. So we've had this headalogue between the different factions, one person wanting one thing, or one group wanting one thing, another group wanting another thing, and everyone upset. And looking like there is no way forwards. And we were in that for a long time. And this is very reminiscent of this rubbing together of Pluto and Saturn. And this is played out at checkers because checkers is representative. The land and the chalice at checkers is representative of the UK. The energy on top of Beacon Hill for me is that energy of spiritual ancient Britain and the spiritual governance of ancient Britain. It seems to come down, or Britain comes down into the top of that hill like 12 or 13 divine beings drop down as a group, come as a group and drop down into the circle at the front of Beacon Hill. And that's a bit like a government, or for me, it's a bit like the image there for me is the Knights of the Round Table, and that circle is like the round table, and there's these 12 or 13 divine beings that come in, and they are the spirit, for me, maybe not other people, but for me, they're a bit like the spiritual governance for our country. So for me, because that chalice looks like Pluto, and we've got this whole relationship going on at the minute, and we've come up to this climax of the actual conjunction, and coming up to the conjunction, everything is rubbing together, and then through the conjunction you get some kind of resolution of it, and then you move forwards from that place. And that is what has happened in England through these last years, and or UK, and the people, most of the people of the UK. And you can view it externally as checkers, but you can also view it internally as what is happening within yourself. And it really hit pretty well bang on. You know, there was just no way of getting through. Then there was an election, and it all just went in one particular direction. And then it went through Parliament and the Lords pretty well bang on the actual conjunction, which was last Sunday, I think the 12th. And it's not like it's instant, this will carry on for, a year or two, which it will be doing with the negotiations. So I know it's upsetting for some people, and it's not upsetting for other people, but there is one direction now. It may change later. Maybe later generations say, no, actually, we want to go back into Europe. We don't really know what will happen, but it is going in one direction. So that is one of the aspects of this Saturn Pluto thing that happened here. I'm going to run um, more webinars on checkers and this particular aspect. And we're going to work with that sign of Pluto. We're going to not just work with the water circuit, we're going to very much bring in that sign of Pluto, and we work through the energies in ourselves that are mirrored in that chalice at checkers, and we work with ourselves as that image of Pluto. Because if you look at the image of Pluto, it's like a little person with their arms up, making the chalice shape. And that is the hand mudra that we use when um, when we're working at chairs. There's a prayer shape there, and we work with that coming up onto Beacon Hill. The ley lines, the ridgeway makes the shape of a prayer. And then there's the chalice shape. And if you hold the chalice shape, brings you into the divine female energies and God or creator or heavenly energies pouring down to you, communicating down through you or receiving. You go into the prayer, it's more the other way. The energies are rising through you and connecting with the higher energies the other way. So you get both. And we will be working with that. We'll be taking those energies through us, and they mirror the blue energies, because the kidneys, adrenals, they're like the top of the chalice, and at the top of the chalice at checkers as we image them, then as they come down, you come into the bladder, and then the line down, this is for the penis vagina. So it mirrors that chalice in us, mirrors the chalice in the blue energy circuit. And the other chalice, the larger chalice, the one showing the ridgeway, this is more the fire energies and the earth energies. And there's another chalice there, which you have as the ovaries, testes, as the top of the chalice, coming down into the uterus, prostate, it's the middle of the chalice, then penis, vagina as the ground for that chalice. So there's those two chalices, and we can work with those in ourselves. And we will also be taking more visits to the center of the earth, where this has coincided with me with my work of promoting thorium energy, which is kind of a clean form of nuclear energy where there's no waste and there's not really any chance of it melting down, because the reactors are already melted down, they're in a molten state, um, as a way of stopping climate change, really. Um, but on that journey to the center of the earth, all the heavier elements get pulled to the center, and the heavier elements are thorium, uranium, neptunium, and plutonium, right at the middle. And as these come closer together and hotter, they start fissioning, the same as in a nuclear reactor. And the whole center of our Earth is a giant nuclear reactor. And that produces the heat that makes all the lava still molten. And also produces all the flows. There's like rivers and different flows and circulation of all of the magma. This is created from this giant nuclear reactor in the center of the earth. So for me, nuclear fission isn't an alien thing. It is something that is in nature and is at the center of our planet. And that energy releases not just as fission and radiation. It releases as a subtle energy that pours out from the center of our earth, healing us all. And to deny, a lot of people have become scared of nuclear energy, because straight away, almost the minute we learn how to use it, we went and bombed Japan, or Japan was bombed. And everyone got this big shock, wake up call, look what this stuff does. And then in making nuclear power, rather than go with thorium molten salt reactors, which use all of the fuel and produce no waste and are in a molten salt state, so they cannot melt down. About a third of the amount. They're about they're small because they're not pressurized. There's not the pressure, which is what causes the accidents. And there were water-cooled reactors, which are big. They blow up. They only use about 2% of the uranium. The rest is waste, which lasts for hundreds of thousands of years. And they went with that second view, and in my opinion, and I may be wrong, because from that waste they can harvest plutonium, which can be used for bombs. So people have seen what the bomb's done. People have seen what the accidents do, and they become scared of nuclear power in themselves. But as is of the earth, is of us. And somewhere in us, probably at the very center of our DNA, the nuclear elements are at the center of our earth, the center of our being, the center of our DNA, of our cells. Probably that is where this quality of fission or nuclear energy is reflected in us and expands out from us. So by becoming scared of nuclear fission, we become scared of something in us and we block something in us off. So in those webinars that I'll be running on from that, we will be taking that journey and finding that healing quality. And in that last one on the 12th, we did take that journey from the blue circuit, mirrored, how that is mirrored through the blue circuit. So penis vagina is the ground, it's the crust of the earth as you go into the earth. The bladder, it's the heart for that circuit, really healed by that warm red energy of the magma. And as you drop through the magma, you drop through into a layer of steel or metal. It's coming into this more central core of the earth. And that is majorly where the radioactive materials are. And as you're coming up to that, you're going through the kidneys, which are more like the lungs. They're kind of halfway between. And then as you go into the middle, you've got the radioactivity, which is more the adrenals and connects to the brain, the nervous system, the healing energies of the nervous system. And it heals the brain, the nervous system, really the whole endocrine system gets healed. I really feel it strongly in my thyroid. I've got a lot of stuff in my thyroid from Lyme's disease and in the brain from Lyme's disease. So for me, dropping down into that radioactivity and especially the plutonium is kind of, Pluto, the king of the underworld. It's like the king of the very center of the earth. You start with thorium, which is the grounded one. It's like the earth for those planets, those gods. They're all named after gods. And the planets that they relate to are named after gods. And it's funny that those four elements, I don't know about any other elements being named after gods, but those four are. So the thorium, as you go in, is the most grounded. It's the lightest, and it gives a really nice energy bomb through the body. Then as you drop into the uranium 235, then that's a heavier element, a stronger energy. Then Neptunian is a bigger element, more energy when it breaks, just flows through the body. And then finally you drop into the Plutonian, it has a very different energy. So you can feel it, you can sense it, very different. Then it starts to vision. You get this blinding white energy that just burns out through you, through every cell, especially through the brain, especially through the endocrine. It's so healing. It's so good not to rubbish this element and find its true value in itself, because it really heals your brain, your nervous system, your endocrine system, the thyroid. So many people have troubles with tiredness and fatigue, and that is this whole circuit, the blue energy circuit, really hit on in these times. The nervous system, the fight flight, the kidneys with all of the toxins in food and the air these days, the bladder through stress, the penis, vagina, for all of these different images we have of how we're meant to be or behave sexually. And this can be all healed from working with this site at Chequers and from working in ourselves with that particular chalice. Is the blue energy chalice, and working with that sign of Pluto and plutonium. Very particular quality to plutonium, and not to be scared of it. Oh, I'm going to die from the radiation. But there's a subtle energy that comes through out from the center of the earth. All of those elements are born in the last days or last milliseconds of a dying star. When a huge star is dying, it gets to a certain way and it starts collapsing. It fires in, doesn't just go in with gravity, it fires into the middle, a quarter of the speed of light. That's fast. It crashes into the middle. And in that crush, as it forces all the elements today, it creates those radioactive elements, the thorium, the uranium, the Neptunian, plutonium, and that explodes out at almost the same speed and spreads across the galaxy. And those elements has the whole periodic table in it. They're all created as the star grows older or as it crushes into the middle. All those elements fire out in a molten state across the galaxy. And one of those became the Earth. And all of those heavy elements started getting drawn to the center of the Earth because they're more dense and being pulled inwards. And then as they started more and more coming together, started to fission, make this heat that keeps our center fluid and molten, produces this energy that pours out from the center of the earth. So it's well worth getting acquainted with these elements. I will be running another one of those soon. We may have done, we got both when we did it on the 12th. It may have been a bit too much. We did both. We did the journey to the center of the earth and worked with the sign of Pluto and that whole thing. But I'll be separating those two in the next ones. We'll have one webinar, whole webinar going to the center of the earth and those energies, and a whole webinar just sitting with that site, the blue energy site, healing our kidneys, our adrenals, bladder, penis, vagina, connecting to Pluto, the sign Pluto, how that is, how it releases up. There's a further map that I haven't shown, how it releases up through the neck, how it works through the head and face that mirror exactly that picture of the sign of Pluto. Whoever drew that sign, they were probably visiting Chequers at the time, and they'd gone forwards in time and learnt about holographic breathing and how these different organs work. And said, right, here we go. Here's a sign. This is for Martin and his group of people because it is spot on. Or maybe it wasn't for me. Maybe that is just set there in the element of things as a map to our consciousness, our inner being, our anatomy, and our health, an aspect of our reality that is mapped out over and over again in all sorts of ways, holographically through us, through the universe, in the same way that holographic breathing works. I love doing these talks. Someone complained a bit about one, but I just love it. I love the energy that comes down when I'm doing it. I just enjoy it. I start and it's like, oh, should I talk about this? And then after a while, this light comes in. I just start feeling really good. And from someone who's very shy normally and finds it hard to talk socially, suddenly my mouth just won't stop going. So, anyway, from me and this light, I wish you all well. I wish it goes well and you all have a wonderful day. Come to my webinars. Come to my webinars. Yes, twice, three times. Come to my webinars. We're going to be working with the blue energy circuit in the next one, how it relates to the pleura, it's a fluid around the lungs and the membranes around that, how it relates to the cranial fluid, how it relates to the cranial fluid through the center of the spine, how it relates through the myelin sheath, works for rivers for this fluid flowing out through the body. Really healing webinar. Then we'll be doing another, and that relates that what I said relates to the kit, that whole blue energy circuit in those organs as well. Then we'll be doing another checkers one, and then we'll be doing another journey to Pluto or plutonium at the center of the earth. So thank you really for coming. Thank you for Andrea for making your comments. I'll read them afterwards. Thank you for Jacqueline for your comments. Thank you for anybody who watches these. I will do more and love you all. Okay, here we go. I'm going to end this stream now if I can work out how to do it. There we go.